The world felt muted. That's the only word I can use to describe the weeks leading up to that day. My wife Sarah and I had built a life together over 10 years, a life I thought was vibrant and full of color. But lately, the colors had faded. She was distant, her laughter a little too forced, her phone a constant guarded companion. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd smile that same tired smile and say, "Just work, honey. It's been so stressful." I tried to believe her. I really did. I'd make her favorite dinner, suggest we take a weekend trip, anything to see the genuine spark return to her eyes. But it was like trying to catch smoke. She was physically present, but her spirit, the part of her that I fell in love with, was somewhere else entirely. The silence between us grew heavier each day, filled with unspoken questions and a growing dread in my gut that I couldn't shake. I felt like a stranger in my own home, tiptoeing around a truth I wasn't ready to face. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, listening to the soft, rhythmic sound of her breathing, and wonder who she was dreaming of. Was it me? Or was it the reason she'd suddenly started working late? The reason her phone buzzed with messages she'd quickly hide? The thought was a physical pain, a knot tightening in my chest. I felt so alone, trapped in a slow-motion collapse of everything I held dear. I loved her. I loved our life, and the idea of it all being a lie was shattering me piece by piece. That particular morning, the air was thick with tension. Sarah had an early work meeting on a Saturday. A Saturday. My heart sank. As she got ready, she was a whirlwind of nervous energy, avoiding my eyes, her movements jerky and unnatural. She kissed my cheek on her way out, a peck so fleeting it felt more like an accident than an act of affection. "I'll be back this afternoon," she said, her voice strained. "Don't wait up for lunch." And then she was gone. I stood in the silence of our home, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air like a ghost. I couldn't do it anymore. The not knowing was eating me alive. With a trembling hand, I picked up the one thing I promised myself I'd never touch. Her tablet, left charging on the kitchen counter. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type in the passcode. A simple combination of our anniversary date that now felt like a cruel joke. Her messages were synced. It didn't take long to find them. A thread with a name I didn't recognize. The words swam before my eyes, a blur of plans, of secret meetings, of "I miss yous" that weren't meant for me. Each message was a nail hammered into the coffin of our marriage. The laughter, the inside jokes, the affection I'd been so desperate for, she was giving it all to someone else. The world didn't just feel muted anymore. It went completely silent. The only sound was the frantic, painful thudding of my own heart. I saw pictures. Him, them, smiling. Happy. The kind of happy we used to be. The pain was blinding, a white-hot agony that seared through my very soul. My first instinct was pure, unadulterated rage. I wanted to smash the tablet, to scream, to tear the house apart. How could she? After everything we'd built, everything we'd been through. 10 years. Was it all a lie? But then something else washed over me. An odd, profound sense of clarity. The ambiguity, the anxiety, the constant gnawing doubt that had been my shadow for months. It was gone. Replaced, yes, by an immense crushing heartbreak, but also by certainty. The charade was over. I finally knew the truth. I closed the tablet, placing it gently back on the counter. I took a deep, shuddering breath. I didn't cry. I felt hollowed out, empty. But in that emptiness, a strange calmness began to settle. I knew what I had to do. I spent the next few hours in a daze, methodically packing a bag. Not with anger, but with a quiet, somber purpose. I packed my clothes, my books, the framed photo of my parents from my bedside table. I looked around the home we had shared, each object a memory, each room a chapter in a story that had just come to an abrupt and painful end. When I was done, I sat on the sofa, the same sofa where we'd snuggled and watched countless movies. And I waited. I didn't know what I was going to say. How do you find the words for the end of your world? I just knew I had to see her, to face this final devastating chapter head-on. The sound of her key in the lock was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. She walked in, a little flustered, her hair slightly messy. She didn't see my bag by the door at first. She launched into a rehearsed story about her meeting, the traffic, how tired she was. And as she spoke, weaving a tapestry of lies, I just watched her. I saw the guilt in the way she wouldn't meet my gaze, the fear in the tremor of her hand as she set her purse down. She finally trailed off, sensing the heavy, unyielding silence in the room. Her eyes darted around, finally landing on my packed bag sitting by the door. The color drained from her face. What's that?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The air crackled. The moment had arrived. All the rage, all the pain, all the confusion of the past few months swirled inside me. I could have yelled. I could have screamed. I could have thrown her own words back in her face. But I didn't. I looked at her, the woman I had loved more than anything, the woman who had just broken me in a way I never thought possible. And in that moment of absolute heartbreak, a strange thing happened. I remembered us. Not the recent, broken us, but the us from the beginning. Young, in love, full of dreams. I remembered her laugh, the real one. I remembered the way she'd look at me like I was the only person in the world. And I realized that the woman standing in front of me wasn't that person anymore. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't that person either. We had lost each other somewhere along the way. The anger dissolved, replaced by a profound, heart-wrenching sadness. A sadness for what we had, for what we had lost, and for the fact that it could never be found again. And so I did the only thing that felt right. I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was a smile of acceptance. A smile that said, "I know." A smile that said, "It's over." A smile that said, "I'm setting you free. And in doing so, I'm setting myself free too." Her face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she finally let the facade drop. "I'm so sorry," she choked out, the words I had once longed to hear now sounding distant and meaningless. The smile stayed on my face. It was the saddest, most liberating smile of my life. It held all the pain of a decade-long love story ending, but also the quiet strength of a new beginning. My beginning. In that single silent moment, my smile said everything that words couldn't. It was goodbye. I picked up my bag, walked past her, and closed the door on our life together. The path ahead was unknown, and I knew the healing would be a long and difficult journey. But for the first time in a very long time, I felt a flicker of hope. I was walking towards a future that was honest, and that was enough. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this story with me. If you've ever been through something similar, know that you're not alone and that there is strength on the other side. Please consider liking and subscribing for more stories. Take care of yourselves.